What is up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Thank you for coming for another weekend. And today I'm going to be having another sports debate. I don't know if I should keep streaming these if you guys like them. And well, this time having a different guest, Champions 36 or Junior, who actually already commented here, said hi. He is an Ohio State fan, and we are debating today about college football. If we should return to the BCS or the college football playoff, and I think the BCS was a better system simply because, well, it offered like first of all, there wasn't many blowouts in which the context of that we had for let's say the BCS, the games were more closer than what the playoffs is because one dominates versus four like all the time, and plus they get like the BCS actually gave group of five teams a chance. For example, if we put 2017 UCF in 2000 in the year 2007, the craziest year of all time, UCF plays in the national championship, for example, and the rankings were more fair in my opinion. So and that would be my first point. And it's your turn, Champion 36. You can go ahead.
I think hello, I'm Champion 36. I think that the playoff era is better because it has more people telling us that this team is better. Sure, there are the teams, but I think I'd rather have people tell me than a computer.
Well, yeah, but those rankings can be biased. If, like, let's say, for example, if we ask a person to rank teams, they might go look biased and put certain teams ahead of others that weren't deserving. For example, even though Alabama won the national championship, I think Wisconsin deserved it more than Alabama in 27. Wisconsin deserved a playoff spot more than Alabama in 2017, since let's see, uh, Wisconsin actually played in a conference championship game. And in 2014, even though Ohio State won the national championship, TCU at least deserved a chance. Maybe they could have kicked out or a Florida State or something, but no, they had to bias against TCU or something like that. And like with a computer, there's literally zero bias because like it's a computer. A computer can't be biased like at all.
I agree with you there, but then you also have to think. You also have to look at that 2007 season and see that Oklahoma, or in one of these seasons, Oklahoma, Texas Tech, and Texas all had one loss, and each of them played each other. Each of them lost to one each other. So
Yes.
and then they ended up keeping Texas Tech out. In the playoff era, that wouldn't have happened because they would have seen that you could have looked at which team is better than a computer looking at the record.
Yes, that is true. But let's take for example in the playoffs. For the playoffs, like the rankings are one of the worst things because like every week there's a single problem with it. Like I mean, I could make rankings better than what the playoff committee does every single week. You could make rankings better than what the committee does every single week. And even like an average 10-year-old would be able to do the rankings better than CFP. While with the BCS, you are since the computer, there is margin for error, but less than what human error could provide.
Yeah, you're not wrong there, but I mean, if you actually look at it, sure, there's some bias, and sure, there's people that probably don't deserve to be on that committee. But I mean, if you look at take this year for example, in a COVID year, Ohio State only played 6 games. And say Oregon goes undefeated. They only played 6 games, 5 games total. Like you would have the playoffs would be Alabama, Clemson, Texas A&M, and then Oklahoma because they played the most games. Was it really the Ohio State, UCLA, and Oregon fault that they didn't play games? No. I mean, they were one of the biggest teams fighting for them to play.
That
So
is
it just,
absolutely true, and I agree with you there. But I will have to say that most of the playoffs are essentially blowouts because, let's say if there is literally zero, the committee gives zero chance to group of five teams. I don't understand why. Because at this point, every playoff game is a blowout. Alabama, Oklahoma, 2016, I think, blowout. Clemson, Oklahoma, blowout. Alabama, Notre Dame, blowout. Ohio State, Clemson this year, blowout. At this point, it's a blowout every single year. We just get the top two teams, what look like top two teams. Like it's essentially an extra round of somehow the same system.
yeah, here will prove whether the committee, whether the group of five teams should just go and start their own playoff with Cincinnati. If they go undefeated, they play Georgia. They play a tough schedule this year, and if they go undefeated, they deserve to be in the playoffs. I feel like this will prove either group of five doesn't get respected and should go start their own, or maybe you look at the fact that Coastal Carolina and Cincinnati didn't win their bowl game. If you really look at it, did the playoff just look ahead? Like we've seen that the playoff they moved North Carolina up after losing. Now, don't get me wrong, that was the stupidest thing I've done in my life. But I mean, they ended up going and kicking Miami's butt by winning by 30. And I mean, if you really look at it, there's many different ways. Yes, the playoff has always been most of the playoff games have been blowouts, and yes, they need to expand to 6 because if you expand to 6, this year's playoffs would be interesting because if you put 5 Power 5 conference championship winners, so it would be Oregon, Ohio State, Alabama, and Oklahoma, and you put the best group of 5 team, and then you have a 16 playoff, and it gives a group of 5 chance team to go and make it maybe all the way. It gives all the Power 5 conferences a reason to win their conference championship. As you mentioned, the 2017 Alabama team, they didn't even play in their conference championship game and made the playoffs, which was ridiculous. In that case, if we had a 16 playoff where all Power 5 conference teams made it, then you wouldn't have that happen.
Yes, that is true. However, let's see. The BCS wasn't exactly, let's say, they didn't rig it for like the national powerhouses like it is now for the playoff. Like for example, a lot of like former teams, like that suck now. For example, Nebraska and Tennessee actually had a chance back then. Also, USC dominated. Like there wasn't any bias at all for the BCS. Meanwhile, with the playoff, you're essentially just gonna have, this current system essentially just have Alabama, Clemson, Ohio State invitational, and then a fourth lucky team almost stands no chance versus the first place of either Alabama, Clemson, or Ohio State.
Yeah, you're definitely not wrong there. There's definitely been some moments where it's like, wait, how'd they make the playoff, but this team didn't? 2014 was a big reset. There was a lot of controversy around that because TCU had gone undefeated, I believe, but they didn't get put in. They weren't even the 5th team. I think they were 6th. And then the BCS, I mean, it was not rigged to be national powerhouse. You're correct there. But I feel like if you have a BCS system today, people would just be like, say we converted from the BCS now, like we just went no more playoff BCS for life. Everybody would just start wanting the playoff back because they realized, oh wait, it's the same teams are just gonna power through. It's just gonna be whenever people get mad, people don't feel like they deserve this to be in the playoffs. They want the BCS back because they probably deserve. And then whenever they don't get in the BCS, they want the playoffs back because they got to the fourth seed. It's just gonna be like that. I mean, if you change it, people are gonna just want it back. It's gonna be.
I honestly
It seems.
I honestly completely agree, since like there's always going to be some complaints with either any type of playoff. For example, I read an article that like it says like if we expand the playoffs, it would, if we put in the playoffs, it, like, for example, there was many situations in the past where, like, in even, let's say, for example, in 2012, there was not in 2012, but if 2012 and an 8-team playoff, it was gonna be really hard to select teams because there were a lot. And well, I honestly have to say I completely agree with that. However, the only complaints that when someone had from the BCS was when there were three teams. For example, in 2004, Auburn got snubbed, which is absolutely terrible decision, since of course USC destroyed Oklahoma. And then 2010, even if TCU and Auburn, Auburn and Oregon were undefeated, TCU did deserve some chance. However, those are, I think, the only 2 years where there could have been something realistically. Meanwhile, the playoffs, there's every year something new happens, which makes us think: is this an actually credible system?
Yeah, I completely agree with you there. And if you look at the 2012 and like how you were saying, in 2012 you had like teams that could have made it in. You had a 13 in Oregon play, Bama and Oregon in the final rankings at 1 and 2. Ohio State at 3, even though they went undefeated.
I think Ohio State, may I pitch in? I think Ohio State is self-banned themselves in the tournament because of around playoffs, in a sense, because of something that happened with one of their players, but I don't remember.
Yeah, I think they ended up. I think in that year they got a self-imposed bowl ban.
Yeah.
But I mean, take out that and put in the playoff era with these rankings. I feel like you have in Alabama. You have Alabama, Notre Dame, and Oregon versus Ohio State. That'd be way more. I feel like if you take BCS rankings, but then have the people put it in, and then the computer, you could come to a mutual agreement, like where they are, like based on computers, and that way you're not just having 30. I don't even know how many people are in the committee.
There's only 13 people in the committee, which is absolutely embarrassing. Since you have 13 people, that's too low. That's too low of a number. And I completely agree. Like, for example, 2012 was the year that we needed to play off, especially since Alabama smacked Notre Dame. I don't know how Notre Dame got selected to play in that, because Alabama absolutely destroyed that year. Oregon could have beat Notre Dame. Ohio State could have beaten Notre Dame that year. Anyone in the top 10 could have beaten Notre Dame that year, since the only reason they got selected was because they were undefeated, even though that they look sloppy at times. However, I completely agree with that. However, I still do think, I think the perfect solution would be if they took the BCS rankings, if they took the way that they would rank teams as the same as BCS, and if they had a playoff system, I think that would work. And besides, the playoff system doesn't stop any team from, let's say, for example, UCF in 2017 from claiming a national title, or that didn't stop anything either from that.
Yeah, you're definitely 2017 UCF team definitely got robbed. I believe Yeah, I don't really. I agree with you. If you take that BCS ranking and then put it in the playoffs, that'd be the perfect scenario until people start getting bored of the BCS rankings and then people want to go back to the playoff. But then it's like it'd be a whole argument. It's always going to be an argument about which one's better. And I agree with you. We need more people on the committee. There should be at least 30. I think there should be at least 30 people on the committee. And then I feel like you should also be able to have unbiased people just look at the film not knowing who they are, not knowing what they are, just looking at the scores, and just be able to see, oh, well, this team, I feel like that'd also be a good way to
Speaking about the scores for
I feel like there's a lot
speaking about the scores that you just mentioned, for some teams.
I mean, I've got an opinion.
What is it?
Okay, so we're talking about what's better, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. So I mean, I feel like the what is better, but the BCS system just this makes no sense, but work better. Like I feel the games were more meaningful, and they had better games back in the BCS. It could just be the time period, probably so, but yeah, whatever. I'll come back in a second.
Okay, sounds good. But yeah, I think that the playoff system looks better, but the rankings in the BCS were essentially made better than.
Yeah, that's why I feel like it's the same. The BCS, I feel like they wouldn't put in a UCF or somebody in the championship. But so wouldn't the playoffs. The playoffs wouldn't put a UCF in the championship. That's why I think they need to expand the playoffs to 16 teams. Because these top schools like Alabama and Clemson, they're getting all the recruits. No one else wants to go to any other school, even though there's a small chance they might not play at Alabama. They still want to go and have that chance of winning a national championship. No one cares about going to any other school.
Exactly, let's say.
They just want to go to Alabama or Clemson.
Exactly, because recruits go to 99% of recruits go to Alabama or Clemson, and then the rest of the 1% is scattered throughout the entire nation. That makes it basically impossible, regardless of what the system that they want to put is, basically.
Yes, that's why they have to change it. They need to change the playoffs and make it bigger, so more schools can compete.
Yeah, exactly.
They need to expand. I think it should be 6 or 8. I think 16 is a little too big because it would just take away all bowl meaning. Because you just have the top 16 teams make the playoffs. Not much meaning to make a bowl game. However, I think it is 18%.
Yeah, I think in the BCS.
Inside the 16 playoffs, play the bowl games inside of it.
Speaking about the bowl games were more relevant in the BCS because let's say for example the BCS was the A tier and the bowls were the A minus tier, and now you have A tier BCS A minus, A tier national championship, A minus tier playoffs, and then B plus or B minus tier the bowl games, since players are now opting out of bowl games because they didn't have the chance to compete for the national title when they're seniors or juniors and they want to go to the draft.
Yep. But I feel like if you play those 16, there'd be 8 games for the first round, which would be 8 bowl games, what you're saying. I feel like if you make a bowl game would just be kind of meaningless because nobody would watch. Everyone would want to watch the 16 bowl games.
Yeah, that
well,
is.
I mean, the bowl games could be for the smaller programs, because
Yeah.
only the smaller programs,
The thing is,
it's
like,
gonna
if
be hard for
we,
them to take the pick off. So I mean, a bowl game is worth fighting for them, or like a maybe like a Kentucky team or like a Tennessee team, somebody like that, and in the Power Five, like somebody that's not in the middle, that's like average, I guess you would say, doesn't expect to win a national championship. Yeah.
that increases why
That's what
players wants to leave after that increases why the reason why players wants to leave when they're seniors or when they're juniors or seniors for the draft, opting out of bowls, because they're essentially realizing they weren't able to win a national championship at the school, and then they just say, let's go to the draft, I guess. Let's see what I can do now in my career since I completed what I had to do for this school, basically, and we weren't able to win a national championship or something, or compete for a national championship. So I guess I might risk going to the NFL and seeing what I can do.
I think a 6-team playoff is the way to go. A 6.
Like 6 could work, but then you have like, for example, in some years there were maybe like, if you make a 16 playoff, the 7th team is going to complain about why they.
The thing is, I feel like I understand, but I feel like those small schools might still struggle to get in, and I still feel like Bama and Clemson will still stack with recruits. So like, that's only 2 more.
that there should be that's why I think playoff they Power 5 one.
Well, yeah, because even Nick Saban said it himself, and even then, Alabama still gets preferential treatment in the way that, like Saban said, you have to win your own conference to compete for like a national title or something like that. And even twice, 2011 and 2017, Bama didn't win, and yet their own conference, and they still won it all in 2011. That was one of the years where the BCS was kind of flawed, since Oklahoma State deserved to make it in over Alabama, even if Alabama eventually won it all. Like, Oklahoma State at least won their conference, even if they lost to Iowa State, which that year, which was real embarrassing for them since Iowa State was awful. And 2017, I don't know why they left Wisconsin out of conversation immediately after they lost to Ohio State, because they were 12-1 that year, with the loss to Ohio State, 12-0 before, and the conversation suddenly became Ohio State and Alabama for the 4th spot, and we all knew who they were going to pick because one of the teams had only 1 loss, and the other one didn't. The other one had 2 losses, so we all knew who was going to get selected.
I feel like also if you were to do a 16, maybe 18 a 16 playoff, I feel like a 16 would be best in this situation. But I feel a 16 playoff, all Power 5 teams, all conference champions from the Power 5 league, and then the number 1, and then you have all of the group of 5, and you put all the group of 5 conference winners in the best group of 5 non-conference winners, and put it in a 16 tournament. Best that wins out of those in the.
Wait, the 16? 16?
Yeah, 16.
But then you gotta look at injuries and health-wise, because that's a lot of games.
That is only 4 games for the champion, so it isn't even that. Well, 4 games for the finalists, so it isn't even that much. Like, they could do it maybe after exams are over for like the student athletes. Like, it's not like it's gonna be like 10 games more for like every single team. Like, it's only 1 more game for those who are knocked off first round, and it's only 4 games for the 2 teams that will play in the national championship in the 16-team playoff.
And it would also give more meaning to go to a group of 5 school. That way, like, you actually have a chance to make it to a playoff instead of just having to go to like
A top bowl game or something.
you get
Yeah. Yeah, and well, let's see, because like that is exactly what that could actually work. And however, also I think like if the committee, like say for example, they're always going to be biased against group of five teams. Like they're not going to even give group of five teams any sort of chance, regardless. To go like, hey, it's a group of five. We already know that Alabama and Clemson are going to win again. So like, why not? So like they're gonna absolutely do that. They're gonna attempt to keep the group of five out as much as possible.
yeah. But I feel like this year is, like I was saying, this year is the year that a group of five team can make the playoffs. Cincinnati has a really strong strength of schedule, and if they don't make the playoffs, it's time to separate from the playoffs for the group of five.
Yeah, the thing is that like people were saying, oh, since the Pac-12 and essentially the Big Ten, well, if had the Big Ten not come back, were out of contention, then maybe let's say maybe the group of five actually has a chance this year. The group of five, maybe Cincinnati can make a huge CF, and the highest group of five finished was ninth place with Cincinnati, which like wasn't even that close.
Yeah, but a Big Ten or a Pac-12 schedule, then we wouldn't. It'd be a different playoff than we had this year.
Exactly. Yeah. Like I think if Cincinnati would have like let's say for example if we put BYU in the Pac-12 and Cincinnati, the ACC stuff could have been different, but I have no idea what would have happened since we can't essentially do that for like zero reason.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Also, I feel like this year, if Ohio State doesn't play, then you have your top. Then it'd be a way different battle for the number 4 seed. I feel like Cincinnati's in that talk because your top 3 are pretty much cemented. Clemson, Alabama, and Notre Dame.
Exactly. There's that. Exactly. Like honestly, I would prefer like any kind of change to the playoff. Like I don't care if like that I don't care if we go back to the BCS or if we expand the playoff. But I just want some change because the system right now is obviously not working, and I think everyone knows that at this point. Yeah. Okay. Due to my battery, I think I'm gonna have to end it. So I'll be, thank you to everyone who came to the stream, and I'll be seeing you in my next video. Peace out.
Peace.
Peace.